You're listening to the MLS Fantasy Insider, bringing you weekly tips, tricks, and advice for the official MLS fantasy game.
Hello, and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider. Sorry I had the microphone muted. I realized I didn't have my headset on, so things were looking kind of strange on the old mixer bars right there. Since everyone is here right now, for those of you, here you go.
Recording in progress.
There it is. The recording's in progress. I'm going to get the social media out right now, but for those of you here, please do let me know how, miserable Gene indeed. Please let me know how I sound. I have moved the microphone for me. I know you guys were talking about some of the lower volume for myself last week, so let me know how this sounds. I moved it. It was usually suspended above. I've moved it down below, so just let me know as we're going through the show how this sounds as I get out the social. Join now. Prep all this stuff. So there is social media out on Twitter and with both accounts right there. And so if you would be so kind, please feel free to go out there and retweet that one for us. And then I'm going to get it sorted out here on, whoops, that's the wrong screen. Get it sorted out here on Discord. Let's see here. Discord, right there. Whoops. Edit that. Bush League read. All right, there we go. So we have the social out on Discord, and we've got the social out on Twitter. If you're joining us for the first time here on YouTube, welcome. We come to you live pretty much every Monday, especially for nights like tonight when we have a double game week coming. We're coming to you live every Monday with information about the official MLS fantasy game with tips and everything. So happy to have you here. If this is the first time, again, please feel free to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification. It does help so very much. So several hundred people have done that, which is pretty crazy for this little niche project that we have. So very, very flattered that people have done that, and happy to have you here with us. Yes, thanks, Strix. Let me know it sounds good. Again, you guys just kind of keep me in line as we go. I'm trying to watch the EQ mix bar right there, keeping it around the green-yellow area. But I know that we've had some that's popped up a couple times this season, and more than I would have preferred. And so, yeah, just let me know, and I'll make sure that try to keep it. Maybe this will be the new setup to help make sure it works well. So, all right, then we will go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of round 24 of the 2024 MLS Fantasy season. This episode is brought to you by Goals and Cards. What better welcome back to MLS Fantasy from the Leagues Cup than that? Wait. Actually, brought to you by the amazing MLS Fantasy Insider Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to keep this project going. Learn more over at patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reed Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my fill-in partner in fantasy. I feel you are equally a partner in fantasy, but we are joined tonight by Tyler, aka Ranchinator Norman, who is filling in for Ashley as she is gallivanting across Europe watching soccer. How you doing tonight, Tyler?
I'm doing pretty good. A little exhausted, but
That's
long
right.
day back to the school stuff, but I'm doing all right.
It's all good. We're happy to have you here, and I did think it would be inappropriate to not allow you to equally share the title of a partner in fantasy. So, well, we are excited to have you here. Yes, Ranch is here. We've got some tips that Christian has shared with us. Again, he was a little bit under the weather last week, and his wife's under the weather, so he is on kid duty. But Tyler and I are here to make sure you are keeping up to date, because round 24 is not just the last round of the fourth quarter qualifier for MLS Fantasy Champions League, but it is also the it is also a double game week. I don't know where the came from. It's not a the something. It is the current double game week. It is a double game week. So it is a small double game week, but it is a double game week nonetheless, with a couple of teams that we are definitely going to focus on talking about during this episode. So we are so happy to have that here, and all that's going to start on Wednesday. So be sure you have your team set. First, we're going to start out with our round 23 takeaways, and there is some good stuff this round to take away. I wasn't particularly happy with how it all settled for me, but you had a different reaction, Tyler. So how did you do, and what are some of the key takeaways you think are important for fantasy managers?
Yeah, I actually really loved this week. I finished with a 91 on the week, which I honestly could have finished closer to 100 if I had kept my keeperoo that I had talked about with the LA Galaxy. And then the other thing was I switched Suarez to Swiderski, which was a 4-point swing also. So I easily could have been 100 points, but I'm at 91, and it's like I'm complaining even though I have a good score. But this score did bump me up from overall 13 up to 10, which is crazy. I've never like batted an eye at top 10 at this time in the season, so that feels good. Won all my head to head, so you don't need to call out my name for another week.
No problem. I wasn't going to.
I
Fancy
figured you
pants,
weren't.
Rich McGee over here.
Oh man, it looks like Wojo tied his though, so I didn't go up to third. But it was just a really great week for me overall. Some takeaways that I want to talk about. Something that I truly believe now is the only way to beat Portland is to outscore them. They don't have defense, as is proven from last week and any other weeks, but they know how to score. This was a 4-4 game against St. Louis. That's wild. And people need to look at their attack more often outside of Evander. Like, Evander is good, but when other people are available, also look at like J-Rod, Mora if he's available, Santi Moreno, people like that. Like, Portland looks really good. In that same game, St. Louis has come out of Leagues Cup as an absolutely dominant team on paper and on the field. I personally would keep my eyes on Hartel. It looks like he took over Leuven as the set piece taker, but Leuven still has PKs. So 2 of the goals that happened for St. Louis were off of a Hartel corner kick that was just immediately headed into the goal, which means he's not a bad play considering the height of their team. Something that really surprised me was Sporting Kansas City got a shutout this weekend. And I know I'd get slapped in the face if Cam was here, but I'm like, that's super surprising to me that SKC actually got a shutout. And I say of all teams, it's Orlando, but I thought that, yeah, they would score because Orlando doesn't have defense. And I think I pointed that out when I talked about Tommy last week. But I did not think that they would get a shutout. That was a little surprising to me. A couple more notes. I'm in this middle ground of, is Austin good now? Is Nashville just bad? Or is it both? Is Austin kind of middle of the road? I'm not sure. I think that Austin is on the uptrend, but not quite at the good level yet. And Nashville is just straight up bad right now. I think the stat is now they're 9 straight games of all competitions without a win, which is a little bit crazy. The last note I want to go over is that RSL San Jose game, in my opinion, was an upset. everything pointed towards RSL at least scoring and maybe doing well in that game. And then Arango got pulled off. Turns out he actually got injured. Nobody actually knew that. They just pulled him off, and then news just dropped that he got injured.
Hamstring
But
tweak, right?
yeah, hamstring. But San Jose did look very good in the League's Cup, so realistically, we should have seen that coming. Just didn't expect it, and I threw McMath on my bench, and I regretted it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair of a takeaway we should have brought over. I think we were hoping for some more of that just road form in RSL to really help there, and was a backup for a lot of people. But I think that's what showed why we had some of the strange Keeperoo backups in the end. So for me, I was not happy with this round. Went with just several of my players did not perform, and I made some changes. I was out with the family doing some things, and I made some changes that one didn't work in my favor because I decided to roll the dice on the New York City FC clean sheet and I didn't hit the save button. So that ended up being what it did hit the save button. So that ended up being better because I actually got points from Houston because I was doing the Houston Keeperoo. And so I didn't get 0 from New York. And so I did still get some points there. So a flub in my favor right there. But the one that I did save, because I did this at 2 different times, is I got cold feet about Evander playing. And so I subbed him out and went with 3 LAFC attackers with the intent on going back and looking at the lineup to see what it would have been if Evander was going to be playing or not, because I wanted Portland with Evander. And we see why you want Portland with Evander because of just the great scores that they have. Now, Mora got the goals this week instead of J-Rod getting the goals this week. Like, that's still shifting around, but this Evander helps that team so much. And so I missed up on that one. And then I also ended up I was betting against Cincinnati for so much during this weekend that I had Suarez in my team. And at the very last minute, I was like, I don't know.
I can't do it.
I don't know. No, it wasn't I couldn't do it. It's like Gressel wasn't in, and I switched to Alba, and I was like, what in the world's going on with Miami? Like, is this just bad vibes from Miami? So I switched out Suarez and put in Benteke. So, I mean, got a goal from him. So, like, didn't get nothing, but could have had a couple from Suarez. So a few little things here and there. Ended up with 68 overall, which was not fantastic, but I actually tied or won several of my head-to-heads, maybe like 50-50 this week in head-to-heads, with losing a few to people in the 70s and tied with some people or lost to people in the mid 60s. So I feel like I'm still top 100 overall. So I feel like a lot of people were in that kind of middling range this week. Like, Tyler's score, I don't feel like was common at all.
I think common was like between mid 60s and like 80.
Yeah. So
and if you did better than 80, you had a good week.
Yeah, he had a fantastic week is what that is. So if you got some scores in there, that's kind of what you were seeing. So other general quick takeaways from me right here. Yeah, Evander, that's why. I already covered that. Great showing. Great tip from Tyler about Rusnak. Had some great scores right there. And Yeboah also produced very well for Minnesota in that first game of the round. So Rusnak, we already knew about. Yeboah, good to see that going forward as one of these new guys that we were keeping an eye on, that we talked about a couple of weeks ago now, really focusing on, but we mentioned some last week as well. That Montreal-New England game was a huge surprise for me. I expected more from Montreal. Frankly, I expected less from New England, but Bobby Wood finally showed up in a big way for them, and but it was most likely Heel that you had if you were in fantasy. He racked up 11 key passes and got 9 points overall. So not a bad score for him, and definitely one to. He had kind of fallen off my radar. I saw some teams mention him. I was just like, nah, I just didn't like it. But he's reminding us why he's doing well, and maybe they've got some pieces starting to click there. It's a little bit too late, maybe too little too late at the end, but good to see some of that potential, but definitely a shocker. I wouldn't really be looking at some of the other guys, but Heel is definitely still showing why he can be fantasy relevant. Probably a bench play, though, at best. The DC Dallas game, I mentioned that I had Benteke, still really the only player, I'll just say it, the only player you'd want to consider from DC. Dallas is interesting. They won that game. They came back and won. They've got their interim coach who's been here for 2 months.
Not
at
very
this
long.
point, not very long, but they're just so riddled with injuries and just things that are going on there that it's hard to expect any consistency out of Dallas. But they've gotten some results, some in the Leagues Cup, some near before Leagues Cup. They've got some points now, but I feel like it's too much just like close your eyes, throw a dart at the dartboard to figure out who you might want to roll with at Dallas to really make them safe with fantasy. But there could be something there, maybe a differential every now and then for Team Ranchinator. But they pulled it out this week, and that was a big shocker. But the fantasy takeaway I have is just there's no confidence there for me in who I want to get behind. Let's see here. Chicago was another one that surprised with that draw that they came with. However, the goals came from Gutierrez and tell me, Tyler, give me the name. Kuipers. There we go. I was like,
huge diapers.
There we go. Thank you. There you go. A little mnemonic there. So and that's where you would expect. If Chicago's going to be getting goals now, Gutierrez and Kuipers, those are the ones who we're going to be expecting to see them from. That was part of what I wanted to see in this game was without he's gone. He's Shaqiri. There we go. I was like, he's gone already, and so I've forgotten him. Without Shaqiri, where is it going to be coming from? And unsurprisingly, Gutierrez and Kuipers just coming in there and coming back in the draw with New York City. So that is why they were a bench play, though. That is why New York City was the bench play with the Keeperoo going into this round. Portland, we talked about. You covered St. Louis. Excellent there. Nashville. I have an answer to your question, and it's both. Nashville is not good, and Austin is bad. Austin is better. They have gotten better near the end here with some changes and everything, but they are still bad and not a team that I want to be leaning on for fantasy. I saw in chat mentioned that the Austin clean sheet saved them. Kudos to you for having an Austin defender or a keeper there. I mean, their keeper was on his head in this game, saving the PK and everything. So that is absolutely amazing. So if you had that, well played. But I still have no faith in either of these teams. That's why I didn't want Mukhtar going into this game. I just had no faith in Nashville whatsoever, and I think we saw that play out this past round. So there's your fantasy reminder right there. Well played, Sporting Kansas City, Orlando. I saw some people mentioning about a potential Sporting Kansas City clean sheet, but for me, I never saw good enough explanation as to why they thought it would happen. It was mostly like Orlando's bad. And it's like, I mean, they're coming off of like a nice win streak coming into this, so I can't really say Orlando. But Sporting Kansas City has been doing well to sort of just recover from where they were at the beginning of the year. And so we've looked at Tommy ourselves a couple times like this. So there've been a few standout players there. Jake Davis was the man this week on defense, getting the clean sheet and a goal. So big points right there that I'm sure few and far people had, but still not one that I'm sure we can go find some long fantasy plays for the rest of the season. And then finally, Royce coming in for LA, done very well. He'll be a focus of some of our conversations this year. So mixed bag for some of the new players, the new signings that came in for this round, but definitely some ones who did well and definitely some ones who are fantasy viable right out the gate. So let's see. Yeah, comment. Black and Red mentioned Mukhtar would have had a solid score if he hadn't missed the PK. Very true. Very true.
Paintsel too.
So would Paintsel, and what Stuver wouldn't have had a fantastic score had he not blocked the PK. So
no,
that's what it is, and it's the thing we've talked about before. Yes, sometimes we're making our midfield picks like you were talking about with Lowen, about who's on set plays, who's on PKs, who's on some of these things. But I don't want to be betting that Mukhtar's going to get a PK to get a good score.
I mean, people take Pendag, though. Can you really argue about Gasbag?
So I think we can have other comments about Gazdag that are not focused on hoping that the team concedes. a penalty with that. And that's where I feel like Mukhtar is like I'm skeptical that he's going to do anything else. And
Yeah.
well, maybe that's enough for some people to put him on the bench and pray, but it did not play out this round. I mean, that's just not.
And it was something we said last week when we both of us liked Mukhtar, but we just couldn't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
We were like,
I
we
didn't.
see something, and I didn't either. We're like, we see something, we just don't.
And that's what's
trust
happened
it.
is he's sort of had a glimpse of his old self, and then it's just been streaks of nothing, and so it's just been hard. It's just been hard.
Mhm.
So very good. So that's the quick takeaways that we have. Still a few little tidbits that we can pull out as we're coming in towards the end of the season. Some of this is about consistency. It's great to see new players, new faces coming in that are really starting to help impact some of the decisions that we made. There were cards and results from last week that are going to impact this week, and so we'll be talking about all of that coming up next in our housekeeping section.
Nice and clean.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
One thing we didn't really talk about was Sebastian Lletget. That dude had a game.
He did, but I guess I could have talked about more of that with Dallas. Like, he had a game, but he also very regularly doesn't have a game. I mean, that's the thing about Dallas is that they've just not. The only thing consistent about Dallas is that someone crucial is going to be injured. That's pretty much it.
Oh, Velasco's back. Speaking of injuries.
All right, let's see here. Let's scroll down there. I'm going to skip over the leagues. We'll go right into that.
That's fair.
Let me get the social. Oh, Cincinnati's trying to get another center back.
I saw that. Teenage Debe.
Yay, go us. I showed Tyler already, but for those of you got the there it goes. Yuya Kubo autograph, new addition to come up here right with Lucho right there on the back wall. So I'll work on trying to get those hung up. Maybe I'll hang them on the wall there so people can see them. I don't know if that's going to be a good
little shelf there.
I could put them on could put them on the shelf. Yeah, could put them up there. Could hang them. I got a lot of space on the wall over here, but you guys can't see that, so we'll see. Maybe I'll rework some stuff and see how the background needs to be. But I got distracted. So post. There is some social out right now.
Wait, did he sub in?
Who sub in?
Did Alan Velasco sub in that game?
All right, there we go. The social media is out on Twitter for the housekeeping section. Again, please do be so kind and retweet, and we are going to get into it. Hello and welcome back to our housekeeping section for Double Game Week Round 24. With Tyler's permission, I am skipping our league recap as we did it at the last episode, and not much has really changed. So congratulations to everyone who is still doing well and who got some wins this last round. It's been a lot of fun with our leagues this year, and it's not over yet. So round 24. This is a double game week, a small double game week, and everything starts as you'd expect on Wednesday, August 28th with Philadelphia versus Columbus at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Times. After that, we have a bunch of games on Saturday and then one game on Sunday, which is St. Louis versus LA Galaxy. So a little sandwich right here as we're going in to this round 24 double game week, round 24. This is the final round of the quarter four Champions League, Fantasy Champions League. So the fourth quarter qualifier for the MLS Fantasy Champions League. Top 50 players will be added. I got to get a better way of saying that. I got to write it all out so that comes out smooth.
It's a mouthful.
It is. There's a lot of stuff in there. But the top 50 players from this round, from this quarter, will be added into the Fantasy Champions League, and then we'll have our final top 200 teams who will be duking it out for extra prizes. So it should be a lot of fun. Good luck to everyone who was right there on the bubble for punching your ticket into. Thank you for that, Razor. Who is punching their ticket for the Champions League. So back to fantasy. 2 teams are on a double game week, as you have probably guessed based on this first game. Columbus and Philadelphia are both on a DGW, which is funny since they just rounded out or they were recently playing in Leagues Cup as well. So we'll see how all that impacts rotations and everything. So we shall see. Teams on a bye. We have 1 team, which is Sporting Kansas City. So all of your switcheroos and keeperoos should be super easy this round. Plenty of players in Sporting Kansas City to help fill those spots and make them work. We do also have U.S. Open Cup games back in the mix. This is now the time when MLS teams have entered. And don't forget, there were some shenanigans that went on with U.S. Open Cup this year. And so not all of the MLS teams are in Open Cup. Only those who have been allowed are in Open Cup. So keep an eye on those rosters to find out who is playing, so you can potentially have an idea about rotations. Most significantly, on Wednesday, we have LA Galaxy versus Seattle, and so we're definitely going to keep an eye on that
semifinals. It's a semifinal game, so
yeah,
those are the only teams left. Yeah.
Well, this is an opportunity where I can bitch and moan about the Open Cup, and so I'm taking my opportunity to bitch and moan about the Open Cup. And you're trying to come in here and be like, oh, it's the semifinals. Yeah, well, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Bitching and moaning. Anyway, Sporting Kansas City, LAFC, Seattle, Vancouver, and Toronto are all playing. We have the Canadian Championship as well. That's why we're talking about Vancouver and Toronto. So keep an eye on all of those teams to see what kinds of potential rotations that are happening for their MLS teams when they play, except, of course, from Sporting Kansas City, who has a bye round. So since Tyler has so many opinions about things, I will turn it over to him now for his, as usual, excellent recap about players who are resting, injured cards, because there was some stuff that happened this week that people need to know about. Tyler, take it away.
Yeah, just a little bit of stuff, though. Let's start off with some good news, which I kind of hinted towards earlier. Alan Velasco made a bench appearance for the first time this season. If anybody remembers, like mid to late last season, Alan Velasco tore his ACL in Seattle. I was at that game and I was like, ooh, that's not good. And then a bunch of other people, and yeah, never mind. But I knew for sure right away that it was a really bad injury. And he made the bench for the first time. For suspensions this week, we have 11 suspensions that are like confirmed suspensions and 1 that's kind of up in the air. So first off, we have Felipe Mora and Jonathan Rodriguez for Portland are both suspended this week, which is going to make that weekend game interesting. We also have Ricky Pooch for the Galaxy suspended. And then we have Lucho Acosta and DeAndre Yedlin for Cincy suspended. Willie Agata had picked up a red. Jonathan Osorio and Federico Bernardeschi picked up their yellows for accumulation. Raheem Edwards for Montreal picked up his yellow for accumulation. And then Tomas Avalos for Miami picked up a red card. And new signing Boris Enau for DCU picked up a red. The one that's kind of up in the air, and in my opinion, he should be suspended based on the number of yellow cards he has. However, according to the MLS disciplinary report, he was not on accumulation last week. So it's kind of up in the air. But Jordi Alba for Miami should be suspended. Whether he is or not is a question mark. So keep that in mind because he is a very popular defender pick right now this week. With it only being Philly versus Columbus for the DGW, I just listed the only 2 players that are on yellow card watch in those games, which are
Fair.
Jack Elliott and Alejandro Bedoya for Philly. No yellow card watch for Columbus. There were 2 injuries this weekend. The first one was Brandon Bai for New England. Not sure, I didn't look into it, but he got injured in like the 12th minute and subbed out for Nick Lima. And then Chicho Arango came off with a I guess, hamstring injury that they diagnosed, and he's expected to be out for 2 to 3 weeks, which could be really bad news for their playoff situation. But that's all I have right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Tyler. I always appreciate the work you put into getting that information for us. If you are interested in keeping on top of the injuries and absences and card counts and everything, you can do that by going to the MLS disciplinary report, or even better, and dare I say more accurate, you can head over to the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord community, go down to the toolbox section, and you can find the mega reference right there, which is a great community curated document of injuries and call-ups and card counts and players who are safe switcheroos. Just, it's a fantastic document that I highly recommend to anyone playing MLS Fantasy to go and check out, as Tyler is one of the great people who contribute to that to make sure he pretty much takes point on it. So this is like Tyler's baby right here. So go and check that out. That's where you can find all the information that we reference up to date as possible about these sorts of issues. The easiest way to get to that document is going to mlsfantasyboss.com/discord. All right, so that's what you need to expect going into Double Game Week round 25, but that just leaves one thing. Which players are you going to target? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about right after this.
Yes, the best section.
Yeah, that's weird. Did they do some sort of like Garber card forgiveness program or something? Or
I think so, because everything I look at, it's like, how did they not catch it? Because he's not even close to getting whatchamacallit. Oh, you know what? Oh, I think they had him suspended for the game versus Cincinnati, so maybe he's not suspended. Looking
who?
at that, Jordi Alba. Looking at it now, I think he got suspended for the game versus FCC.
You mean the game he played?
He didn't play against Cincy week 20. Week 20.
Alba?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Last weekend he did, but
Right.
not the weekend before that, or the week 20.
I see. I did the double game week. The double game week. I see.
Yeah,
I see.
because
Yeah,
he only
yeah,
played
yeah.
one of those games. I'm wondering if he was on watch that week.
Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he had 5 yellow cards. That was a 5th yellow card that he got in that Charlotte game.
It could have been, but there was 5 games in between at the top. That's why I was like, wait, what? But yeah, I think that's what it was. Is maybe that he had some disciplinary during that time. Because if any disciplinary, even if it's not a yellow card,
Yeah.
like if you simulate or something, it counts against it.
There you go.
I'm gonna chalk it up to that. So Alba is not suspended.
There we go. For those of you listening still with us, this is what we have figured out, and this will not be in the podcast. So just for you right there. All right, let's get the final social out. We're doing really well on time this week, so that's where we can wax on about these sorts of things. You may or may not be able to hear my kid yelling in the background. Sorry, toddleroo. And Buffalo running. All right, there is the final message on Twitter. So again, please be so kind and retweet. Helps us oh so much right there. And we're going to get started. Right, and welcome back to our final segment. The players who we are targeting going into double game week round 24 have Tyler, have myself, and also some notes from Christian that I will be covering during this section. So let's start out, as always, with keepers and defenders. Tyler, who are you looking at?
Yeah, this one was actually a little bit tricky for me, as weird as that sounds. My biggest thing that I was having trouble with is, do I want the Columbus goalkeeper or do I want the Philly goalkeeper? And I kept waffling back and forth on those. I personally think the Columbus goalkeeper is better, but I'm worried about rotation because in the Leagues Cup games, I know it's different for Leagues Cup, but in the Leagues Cup games, Hagen and Schulte Hagen played the first two, I believe, and then they gave Schulte 2 games, and then in the finals they gave it to Hagen. So I'm like, is that because it's Hagen and they just want him to have a nice little finals, or is it going to be Schulte for both games? So I'm really nervous about goalkeeper rotation. I think there's a very high chance that they could rotate goalkeepers for each game. So I'm going to be on Andre Blake just to have a double goalkeeper for the week. Do you have any thoughts on that at all before I move on to defenders?
Yeah, so I am inclined to stick with Schulte. I think he's the better goalkeeper in general of the two with this match, and I am willing to chalk up. I mean, let me just pause right here. You make a valid point. So I am not necessarily disagreeing with what you were saying. I though am more willing to chalk up Leagues Cup being an opportunity for reps for Hagen.
Okay.
That it's nice to win. We got to it, but we want to make sure that we have our number one keeper ready for helping to ensure that we have the place that we want for MLS Cup.
Okay.
Because at the end of the
fair.
day, like I feel like this repeat of MLS Cup is what they want, and so it's like, yeah, we got some reps for Schulte, so he's still in it. Let's make sure Hagen gets some time. So I'm willing to see it that way from here. But I see what you're talking about as well. If like, hey, they rotated there. This is double game week. They might rotate here. I don't have Columbus's point count off the top of my head to see how close they are. So I don't have that to throw into the mix. But
the standings.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're. Yeah, if you can see that, I'm not sure how much of a lead they have, or where they can pad, or if they've clinched a certain spot yet.
3 games back, and they cannot be within distance of Miami within those 3 games, but they can be way ahead of Cincy in those 3.
So I mean, as long as they're able to like secure some home field, that's what they're going to want to be able to do with that. So, so we'll see. I'm running with Schulte though, because I feel like that was just an opportunity to give him some reps.
That's a good idea. I guess we'll see on Wednesday, to be honest.
Exactly. I mean, if he starts, I'm rolling with him, and if they decide to rotate him, it's like, well, it is what it is. So that's my plan.
I think if Hagen starts, you go Blake because you don't trust the rotation. But if Schulte starts, there's a chance he goes both.
Because they're starting on the road, so that would also make sense that maybe they're giving him a break on the road.
Yeah. For defenders this week, I have Wagner, which felt like a lock defender for me. And then instead of Schulte, I grabbed Rudy Camacho for Columbus. And my third defender, because I'm probably going to do Ottaru, I'm still kind of deciding on. I'm between like 4 names right now. I'm between, and some people are going to love this when I say it, Dessler for Austin. Tim Ream for Charlotte, because that looks like a nice matchup. Miles Robinson for Cincinnati, or possibly Jordi Alba again. Alba I'm nervous about because it's a road game, and I think Chicago is gonna score. Miles Robinson, I think, has a very real chance of getting a clean sheet with it being Montreal on the road. But I also think Tim Ream has a very real chance with it being Atlanta on the road. So I think it's mostly between those two and possibly Dessler more than Alba, as weird as that sounds. What are your thoughts, Reed?
So, Wagner is just locked for me right there as well. That was the first defender that I threw in there. Interesting take on Robinson. I see where you're coming from with Montreal. Definitely a winnable game. I've just been so worried about the defense in general for Cincinnati. It would have to be a bench play for me, and it's early enough, so that's fine. Speaking of early, though, in chat had the comment made, the thing about going with Schulte or Blake, to be honest, because of the game, is this is one of those double game weeks where technically you can see both games of your DGW keeper before having to be locked in to a keeper. Because normally we see one game and there's so many games being played, it just is what it is. But with this, with Columbus and Philly having the 7:30 game on Wednesday, and then also both of them having a 7:30 game on Saturday, by the time we get to LA, Portland, San Jose, and then of course the Sunday game, you will still have the ability to fall back to one potentially an RSL, but we've already been through that, people. We've been through that, people. But one of those 10:30 games or Sunday games, you will have the potential to fall back on. Now, do you want one of those teams? Maybe, maybe not. But that is a good comment in chat. Definitely want to make sure people know that you can have your double game week keeper on your bench this week, and you can preview all of those points before having to make a decision if you actually want to go with a single game week keeper. That would help save you that if Schulte did only play one game and he did poorly, that maybe you could at least get a clean sheet or something a little bit higher. That likely means that Blake will do better because of having 2 games, more likely, but you will have that chance. So excellent comment in chat. Wanted to make sure that was pointed out. Back to the matter at hand with Defenders. I'm thinking about doing something crazy, and some of it just because it's for fun, and we'll see how it goes. I was in the same mindset as you that I do like that Charlotte versus Atlanta game. Mentioned last week how I was not high on Atlanta. We have been pleasantly surprised and continue to be pleasantly rewarded by the defensive performances of Charlotte. So we saw Reem and Milan to start together last game. I'm considering doubling up on them, to having them both in my back line going into this round, to see if I can take advantage of what I expect to be a poor Atlanta team as well. So maybe not going with one, maybe going with a Wagner and then 2 Charlotte players right there. Potentially going with Alba or Gressel or C, who is playing right there to decide. Wouldn't want to go with a Philly double up. I don't like the I'm just saying I've just resigned myself to they're gonna concede during Columbus. Like, that's what it is. And so with Elliott on the watch, I'm just not sure about Philly on the road to Red Bulls after that. So I didn't want to double up on Philly, but I thought, yeah, I could probably double up with Charlotte. Other than that, maybe you go with Orlando because of the poor form of Nashville, but I don't feel great about it. No. I was going to say maybe DC because Toronto's missing some players, but no, you don't want DC. Don't. This is me going through the rest of the list to be like, okay, let's talk through this. You can see what happens with the Vancouver game for the Canadian Champions League and see what you think about that. But I don't know if Austin can have another crazy defensive game again. I wouldn't be betting on it right there. And then LAFC, this is a game that we're going to talk about often, I think, coming through here. I want to see what happens during this Seattle game. What kind of rotations are going to happen based upon this? Because Houston did not perform as well as I had hoped they would last week during what I thought was an easier game for them. And even though LAFC has not been able to keep a lot of clean sheets, if Houston's not clicking, then perhaps that could be a clean sheet opportunity for LAFC as well as a late game. If your double game week keeper didn't come through, this is probably the team that I would be looking at to pivot to as a single game week keeper to pair up with your double. I don't know if you have a thought about that, Tyler.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the idea of betting on LAFC defense because, especially against Houston,
Sure.
Houston can pop out of nowhere and score goals. Especially with Ponce out there now. You talked him up last week.
I did, and this is when they'll come in and do it.
Yeah,
but it's the fallback. This is if you started your double game week keeper. He only played one game. Which single game keeper are you looking at? I feel like Lloris is a better bet of what's left.
Yeah,
You don't like it. You don't. You're just like,
I don't like any.
I'm starting Blake Reed. Stop it. I'm starting Blake.
If I get a 4, I'm happy, to be honest. I wouldn't grab any of those late goalkeepers if I got a 4 or more.
Yeah, the quick 30-second recap going through there. I don't see Philly getting a clean sheet out of the Wednesday game. Potentially Columbus could get a clean sheet there. I like Charlotte. Again, like Columbus. 50-50 with this Cincinnati-Montreal game right there. I could definitely see some clean sheets in New York versus Philadelphia right there. A toss of the coin for Orlando versus Nashville. Do not want any part of Toronto, DC. Coin flip for Austin FC. I think Chicago's going to concede to Miami. And coming down here, don't trust RSL. Do not trust this Dallas-Colorado game. Hard maybe for LAFC. Keep away Portland versus Seattle. And I see goals both sides for San Jose and Minnesota as well. And then I don't trust the defenses for St. Louis and LA Galaxy. So a limited pool, but we'll go from there. Maybe I should do that. I should send some YouTube shorts just doing that every week, just running through it right
take a 4 from your goalkeeper getting minutes.
If you guys like that, if you want YouTube shorts of me just running through doing something like that, comment below or say something in chat. That would be helpful for people. Let's move on, though. Oh, I said I was going to mention Christians, and I didn't, and he was going to get on me. Christian's also on Schulte. He has Wagner as well. Alba, maybe Gressel. He didn't start in that last one, but so Christian's keeping an eye on him. And then also Camacho is who Christian is looking at right there. There we go. Let's move on to midfield. Tyler, who do you have?
I actually had a very hard time picking my midfield this week, as weird as that sounds. I said that about defense. I think this is a hard week. There's a lot of viable options in every position this week, which is gonna make it very interesting to see what scores are like. Gazdag was the first person on my team with the double. I fully trust that he's going to perform quite well. And so he made it onto my team. The second person that was on my team, who Black and Red is going to love me for saying this, is Christian Espinoza. He was the second player that got on my team. After that, I was like, I really like Hartel. I really like Evander, but I also like Rusnak. And so I don't know what side of the coin I want to play in the Portland-Seattle. And I really should be rooting for Seattle, being a Seattle fan. But I do still think Evander can light them up. Hartel I like because he's on sets, but I'm also nervous about that LA team. A couple other options that I've been looking at. Marco Royce, not Roos, Ashley. It's Royce.
I said it correctly.
I know.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had to bring up Ashley's name, you know?
It's fair.
Marco Royce, I think could actually play quite well even without Pooch. He came in, played like 20 minutes, and he had a goal and an assist. And he looked phenomenal. Another player I think a lot of people are sleeping on is Georgi Mihailovic. If you remember, before Leagues Cup, that guy was on fire. And every team that I've looked at from this morning, not a single person even considered Mihailovic. And I'm like, I think you should take a look, especially against Dallas, who's not great defensively. I mean, they just gave up 3 to DC, and one of them was while they were up a man. And then if Lucho was in the game, was not suspended, he would be an auto lock on my team. But because he is suspended, I'm looking at Orishano this week. Will I have him at the end of the week? Probably not. But I really like the idea of a Cincy attacker against this Montreal team who just looks broken. If New England can score 5 on them, then Cincy can score 6.
You know, that's some of that conversation is happening in chat as well, and I understand that completely. But no love for Yuya Kubo. I mean, I just talked him up right behind me.
Yeah, I don't know who it would be. I said Orishano because I feel like he fills in the boots for Lucho when he's gone.
No, he just needs to be in the back at this point with holding defense. He's our own little Roy Kent right there. playing
Yeah.
for us right now. So yeah. No, I love the names that mentioning Mihailovic, that's I had overlooked that as well. And I feel so bad about that because if I have not admitted it before, it's probably plain as day for those who listen to the show. But I will go ahead and admit it that Colorado is my Western team. So that's just what it has to be at the end of the day. But no, so I feel bad for overlooking that after their bye week and they come back in. So going to Christian before I get too far this time, he's got Evander. He's got Hartel, so he is right there looking at St. Louis as well. He's got Royce, and he's got Gald, and he's got Gazdag as well. So I get the Gald part right there. He's looking for that great form, but it's going to be a game on the road. It's coming in after the Canadian Championship right there, but going against Austin, totally understand that pick. For myself, I agree. Gazdag, right, added into my team right there. Espinoza was one I added quickly into my team. San Jose have been on some good form, and that was a great game last week. And so I think being at home to Minnesota, which has not been super solid in the back, I think that's a good potential for him. It gets a bit more shaky after that. I've got Evander as well. So I feel good about him now that he's played the game and got like 14 points. So those three right there, Gazdag, Espinoza, Evander, I felt pretty good right out the gate with. After that, I mean, Heel had that great game last week. Royce had that great game. Hartel, I like. I want to see what happens with this Seattle and LAFC game because I would be interested in LAFC players going into that game against Houston. I'd be interested in potentially Rusnak going into that game against Portland because, as you said, Tyler, just got to outscore Portland because they're not really keeping goals out right now either. So those are other players right there. I love the Cincinnati shouts right there. Orjano is definitely the one who I would be targeting first for a backup with Lucho out. So this is a round which I don't think is hurting for midfielders. I think it's definitely going to be a 5 midfielder round, and some good options. I look forward to seeing where people end up landing at the end of the week with this one. Go to chat real quick. Let's see here. Yep. No, Black and Red was not happy about that, Tyler. So you.
I know the
Yeah.
the SB says second. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, nothing else added there. So let's move on and talk about forwards, Tyler.
Forwards. I felt like 2 of them are locks, and there could potentially be a third lock. Depending on your keeper situation, I think that is the key. If you have the Columbus keeper, your lock is Baribo this week. If you have the Philly keeper, your lock is Diego Rossi. Cucho should be on everybody's team. If you don't have Cucho, I would suggest opening up MLS Fantasy Boss 101 and rereading it. But Baribo is the guy in form for Philly, and I'm honestly debating if I want him, and I might just YOLO a random goalie, but that feels bad. My reasoning for that is I can't find another forward that I like this week, and I've listed like 4, and I can list 10 more. I really like Vrioni this week, or like Bobby Wood, one of the New England forwards. Because New England is in good form, as weird as that sounds. And RSL just got thwomped by San Jose. And New England just wrecked a team on the road already. Yeboah, who just scored 2 and almost had his hat trick against Seattle, against the San Jose team. That's worth a mention at least. And then I don't understand how we can go through this week without mentioning a home form Danny Bouanga. Ashley would slap all of us if we did not mention his name, or Giroud. But
Wow.
my reasoning for not wanting Bouanga is because it's Houston and that they're playing midweek, but also his home form kind of tapered off the last couple weeks before League's Cup. He had a 3 and a 2, which is a little bit shocking. So I'm not on him. I'm actually on, after all that conversation, I'm on Swiderski as my third forward right now.
Okay.
Yeah. How about Christian?
So going over to Christian's list, he agrees with part of what you're saying. He has Cucho right there. He has Baribo right there as going with the Philadelphia forward. And then he has Peck as his third player for that road game. Totally get that. I think that's definitely, he's also considering Rossi. For me, Cucho and Rossi were the first two forwards I put in right there. Both of them, I mean, Cucho is Cucho. Rossi is also on good form. And having those two games, I like the chances right there. So kind of similar to what I did for defenders. Same as you, Baribo is the one to go for with Philadelphia. Not really feeling good about any of the forward options for Charlotte and Atlanta. Not feeling amazing about running with a New York FC keeper. Got a couple of forward options with Cincinnati, but I think it's too inconsistent, and you're kind of playing that game of just everyone spreading points. No one at Red Bulls. No one I really want to trust with Orlando or Nashville, just due to consistency. Toronto. I mean, you've got.
Benteke.
Thank you. I was like, I kept wanting to say Bowanga, and I was like, that is not time yet, Reed. You've got Benteke against some Toronto on the road. I think you've got some better options right there. Don't really want to bet on Brian White on that road game for Austin, but that's who you'd be looking at. Potentially Suarez against Chicago, giving up some points. He's been doing pretty well, so maybe Suarez.
Hey, you mentioned him earlier. What about Kuipers?
That's fair. Yeah, Kuipers, if you're gonna throw, I mean, I think he's far down the list of who would be your third, but as a forward, that could be a guy who's getting goals against
if you're
Miami.
trying to make up ground for the FCL finals,
That's
might
true.
as well try it.
That's true. Let's cover the options right here. Not a huge fan of the forwards in Dallas and Colorado. You already talked about New England. Bowanga just plays too late. And if I'm gonna go with Bowanga, I'm missing out on having 3 double game week forwards, which could be a non-issue with Bowanga, but that's potentially 6 games of forwards that I'm going to be missing out with that. If I was going to go with Bowanga, I would likely drop one of my 2 Columbus forwards and then add in a Columbus defender to my team, so I was at least still netting some more Columbus coverage right there and keeping with 3 and 3 with those players. So I'd potentially even throw Bogusz into the midfielder mix if I was going to be wanting LAFC coverage.
I would keep a very close eye on that because there's rumors that he could be sold by Friday.
By Friday? I didn't see that one.
To Celtic.
Or this could be his final hurrah. But no, good point. Good point right there. And that's really going to impact some options there going forward. So I was hoping it wouldn't be that soon. Wrapping it up, I mean, we got Evander, San Jose, and then St. Louis. We've covered those players. So
Evander's not a forward.
Oh, you're right. I slipped back into midfielders when they had that quick little comment right there.
That is a good note. The only realistic forward for Portland left is Mason Toy, which for all we know, he's going to pull a Darian Asprilla and destroy Seattle.
You never know. You guys get some weird games there. So I think we're going to see a more common having those 3 double game week forwards up top. Yeah. I think that's what's going to make the most sense. But if you were going to not go with the double game week forward, the Swiderski one's kind of cool. I though like a Suarez pick better for that spot, but I've got all 3 double game weeks right now myself. Going to chat, got some Bowanga mentioned right there. I mean, you could still do Bowanga. I mean, that I get that. I mean, Suarez, Bowanga, that's totally fine. But I would still encourage you to try to find some other places for those. I mean, maybe that's when you put in Blake as your as your keeper, and then bring in a Columbus defender as well. Like I think this is a round where you do want to max out your double game week players with this. So, okay, yeah, Giroux. It's potato for me with that spot. I mean, you're gonna go with Giroux, you're gonna go with Bwanga. It's whichever one you're gonna want right there. I just don't like the placement of that game with the Open Cup game and the way everything's lining up with the double game week. So that's what really the logistics of it is what's turning me off to it. So
yeah, the more I look at this, the more I'm between like either Charlotte or Cincy forward or Yeboah. Those are the three that I'm down to now.
Sure. All right, well, let's wrap everything up with our captain picks. Who do you got, Tyler?
I hope everybody has Cucho.
Yeah, we all got Cucho. That's what it is right here. And I know that for the past few weeks, we've been trying to do like, who would your captain be if it wasn't who we all say your captain should be? The only scenario where that happens this week, I mean,
is if
Cucho doesn't start. Yes, if Cucho doesn't start Wednesday. Other than that, I'm just gonna say it. I think it's foolish to not captain Cucho at this time with a double game week on form, some good looking double game weeks. I think you risk getting behind too much by trying to be cheeky and try to find someone who might outperform a potential 2-game Cucho, then you gain from that. So I think it's just foolish to do that.
A Cucho who's absolutely on fire, living his life with Leagues Cup trophy already.
Right. That being said, if Cucho did not play that game, who would you go with, Tyler?
I'm between Gazdag or Rossi.
I'm the same. I mean, I think that would be there's not a midfielder who I would fall back on with Columbus, and so Gazdag would come in at number 2 for me, and Rossi would be my second, third kind of person there. I see Royce in chat though as a potential. I just think the double game week outweighs all that. So that's a lot to ask for a single game week player to output. I could see it. I could see
that too.
Sure. So
with a tired Seattle team, yeah.
But this is going to be a pretty chalky captain this round, and I think there's good reason. It just, I mean, he could pull up 2 zeros this week, but that means everyone's going to be getting zeros from their captain, except a few people who did something cheeky. But I just think that that's just such a small chance of something like that happening. So,
yeah.
So, all right. Well, that is all that we have for you tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us to help prep for this round 24 double game week. The game is nearing an end, so it's kind of bittersweet. We're coming down here. This is round 24. Round 30 is the last one, so 6 more weeks after this. We already did sort of a Future of Fantasy episode a couple of weeks ago as our one Leagues Cup episode that we did. We will revisit that topic again at the end of the season after we send out a survey to the community as well and get some feedback and discuss that. Try to have some community members on the show as well for that conversation. So that's what's coming, but 6 more weeks left of fantasy after this. It's been so much fun. The season is blowing by, but we're not finished yet. And so I hope that you are going to be set up for a fantastic round 24 to either continue the momentum that you had for this week or bounce back like a few of us need to do after sort of less than desired start coming off of the break. So whichever camp that you are in, as always, good luck.